All right, you've heard a lot about what we're going to do with Iran at this point and what we're going to do going forward. Right? A lot of concerns about Iran, a lot of concerns about them supplying and funding the Houthi rebels and others. What is the plan for this administration? Well, my next guest, Alireza Jafarzadeh, is the Deputy Director of the Washington office of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, NCRI, joining me now. Alireza, nice to see you again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Steve. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. A lot going on. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warning Iran on Wednesday of last week that it will face consequences for supporting the Houthis. And then after that, they went after the airport, Ben Gurion Airport, Israel, playing with fire clearly, because there will be counterattacks on that. It's so predictable, and the United States now very involved in this fight against the Houthis, which means we're basically in a fight against this proxy army of Iran. But Iran is at its weakest point since 1979, according to most observers. What can you tell us?
Well, I think you've summed it up very well. First of all, the Iranian regime for decades has been at war with the rest of the world. That's why they built these proxies, whether it was Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Shia militias in Iraq, the Assad in power in Syria, and the Houthis in Yemen, you name it. There's a whole host of them spending billions and billions of dollars in empowering and funding and training them, targeting not outside of Iran, not Iranians, but also mostly the foreign nationals, foreign countries, trying to basically dominate the region in order for them to stay in power. Because the biggest problem the regime has is the situation inside the country. The people of Iran do not support this regime. There have been 9 rounds of major uprisings in Iran since 2018. People chanting death to the supreme leader, death to the oppressor, be it the Shah or the supreme leader, making it very clear that what they're looking for is not nuclear bombs, it's not missiles, it's not terrorism, rather it's democracy and freedom. They want to see the country flourish and move forward and live in coexistence with their neighbors.
How do we get there, though? Alireza, as long as you have the regimes that have been there one after another since 1979, it has been a country that's been at odds with the United States, obviously, and the Western world, obviously, and many of its neighbors in the Middle East. Not well thought of in that neighborhood either, yet they continue to hang on. Now, I mentioned they're at a weaker point than they've been in a long time, according to a lot of people that observe Iran, and you obviously have a good handle on that. If it's at the weakest point since 1979, is there a chance? Is there a chance right now there could be a change? And I mean that without war. I don't think anybody wants war, but the regime continues to play chicken with that, I suppose. Is there a chance right now for a change at the top?
Absolutely. The developments in the past few years, particularly the past 2 years, has shown that the head of the snake of war and terror lies in Tehran, but so does the solution, to your point. This regime has never been so weak as we speak right now. They lost much of their clout in the region with Hezbollah and the Houthis. A lot of them have been shattered, weakened. Also, the biggest ally in the region, Assad, is gone. And so that's why you have a desperate regime. You have a weak regime that doesn't have the kind of leverage they used to have in terms of implementing their terrorism. But most importantly, inside the country, on a daily basis, every day, the Iranian youth that are gathered in what they call the resistance units belonging to the main Iranian opposition movement known as the MEK, they are the ones who are confronting the Revolutionary Guards. They were the ones who acted as engine for change during the uprisings. These uprisings, every time they come, the regime tries to suppress them, but every time they're longer lasting, more focused, and more enduring than the previous term. The main concern the regime has is that when the next round of uprisings come, would they survive? Because these uprisings in all 31 provinces of the country, you correctly said that there's no need for foreign boots on the ground or appropriation of money. all the United States or other countries need to do is to recognize the realities, the new realities on the ground, the weakness of the regime and the power of the resistance, the desire of the people to bring about change. They need to recognize that.
Alireza, let me ask you this. Let me jump in on this, because recently we heard Donald Trump acknowledge that there have been talks ongoing with Iran. Now, we don't know much about these talks. Were you surprised to hear that? I was a bit surprised. Not shocked, because Donald Trump will apparently talk to anyone in an effort to create some sort of a conversation, and conversations are better than war. But were you surprised when you heard that? And what would you like the president to be discussing in those conversations, or his administration, as it were?
I really wasn't surprised because, it all depends on what's the whole purpose of talks. If at the end of the day, you're going to give pallets of cash to the Ayatollahs and, legitimize their nuclear weapons program and allow them to flourish their terror proxies, of course, that's not the right outcome, as we've seen the past, 2-3 decades since actually we first exposed the nuclear sites of Iran that triggered the IAEA inspections in 2002. That has been the trend. But if the purpose of the talks, as the president said on Sunday, and Meet the Press, that the purpose is to basically have the entire nuclear weapons program of the Iran regime dismantled, no enrichment capability, because that's the core of any nuclear weapons program, and that has been the case in Iran. They need to shut down all of those sites, and the only role that the IAEA, the UN nuclear watchdog, could actually play is to monitor the shutting down of those sites. That further weakens the regime. That further shows another angle of the weakness of the regime, preparing the grounds for change in Iran.
Now, coming up here next month in Paris, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, NCRI, your organization, will be meeting to discuss what's happening. You do it every year. For anybody that doesn't know, what is the National Council of Resistance of Iran? What are you?
Well, the National Council of Resistance of Iran is actually the parliament in exile that, seeking to bring down the Ayatollahs and seeks to have a free, democratic, non-nuclear republic form of government in Iran. It's consisted of about 450 members who operate like a parliament in exile, and they have some elements within the movement, like the MEK, have extensive presence inside the country that has been involved in change there. It's headed by a woman, Mrs. Mariam Rajavi, who introduced a 10-point platform for the future of Iran that says the ballot box is the only criteria for legitimacy, separation of religion and state, gender equality,
non-nuclear. We agree with that, by the way.
Peace in the Middle East. And that has extensive support in Congress and elsewhere.
Yeah, we'd like to see the Iranian people have the opportunity to vote for their leadership. We would support that. Alireza Jafarzadeh, greatly appreciate you being here. As always, my friend, thank you. And I will talk to you again soon. It's been a while, but with everything going on, we need to be talking more, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, Steve.
There you have it. Alireza Jafarzadeh. The National Council of Resistance of Iran. They are the government in exile of Iran. Up next.